Welcome back, everybody, to the Lethal Introspection Podcast, where today, if you like talking buttholes, but you're not a fan of plot cohesion, do we have the film for you? Over here on the Clark Nova, we have Hannah.
Hello.
And on the Mujahideen typing away, we have Jose.
Oh, so good.
And I will be attempting to dictate.
Don't look this way if you don't like it.
No.
Shishi can't look away. Just like the movie.
So I just want to go, since we're very fresh off the tails of this, let me just jump in. We already got a little bit of takes before we started the podcast, but I want some first impressions out of you guys, as harsh as they, I know, are going to be. Go ahead.
Why did you recommend this movie?
All right, great question. Jose.
Yeah, this movie teetered between boring and very interesting in like such a like fucking surgical razor sharp way, because it's like sometimes I'm like, why the fuck are we watching this? And other times like, oh, okay. Or hopefully there's something to go along with this.
What times?
I liked all the parts with when he was actually using the alien typewriters as typewriters. I thought there was a good bit to be said there. I also liked the fuge of use of his like friends, where once they come into the picture midway through the movie, I'm just gonna jump around just like the movie. I don't give a fuck about cohesion.
There's no
just like the movie.
cohesion. Yeah, go.
I really enjoyed how his friends are interspliced halfway through his quote-unquote interzone travel to kind of make it pretty obvious that he's essentially just being a junkie in the city, and he's not really in a different place. Like, because if I were like, because they go back to his apartment and it pretty much looks exactly like the apartment he had in New York City. But everyone's just so quiet about it. Nobody mentions it. And then they just kind of move on from it. And then he like makes them leave essentially, because he's like, I'm not ready to leave being a junkie yet. And, but thank you for coming to visit me. You know what I mean? I'm really, really happy. And, that you guys were here. I mean, to the degree that he kind of understood that was kind of one of those like last ticket out kind of situations where he's like, his friends are trying to, detox him, or at least get him to cold turkey for a little while just so he can finish his book or whatever,
Well, they want him to finish the book no matter what, I think.
Yeah, for sure. They'll finish the book no matter what. But like when he started crying in the sense that he's like, I think I might never be able to see my friends again. I think it was like the drug addicted fatalism of being like, I'm not going to stop doing the drugs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, but I am still rational and logistical enough to understand that these things are killing me at such a pace that I'll probably not be able to see my friends again from it.
I don't know what this movie is about, and I tried to figure it out the whole time. Like, I don't know if it's about bugs or murder or homosexuality or addiction.
Then let me help you out, Hannah, because I did bother to read the Wikipedia article on it.
Oh, that was very backhanded way to come at that.
Well, no, I mean, I genuinely want to help because I didn't understand until I read the Wikipedia article literally like 5 minutes ago.
Well, that's good. You break it down for us.
William S. Burroughs, this whole movie is a semi-autobiographical take on William S. Burroughs' life, who is the original author, which is the original author of Naked Lunch.
Yes.
This dude was a gigantic heroin junkie throughout the majority of his life, alongside every other kind of copious thing that he could put inside of himself. He did, in fact, kill his second wife in IRL, and they implemented that aspect into the movie. The entirety of the movie is essentially the process of what he went through to write the book Naked Lunch. Because apparently, after it was all done and people lauded him for it, he's like, I don't remember writing this book at all. And so given that, that's essentially what the movie is, in my personal opinion, the odyssey of a dejected junkie / writer, because it seems like he's a junkie first and then a writer second, in the sense that he'd rather do drugs than write, not I'm using the drugs to fuel my writing. It just seems like the writing is incidental to his drug use. He just happens to be really fucking good when he gets into his flow state.
Yeah, I don't mean to interject at all, but I'm constantly reminded of Bukowski watching this movie and how and maybe even like Hitchens a little bit, because these guys just drank and wrote beautiful, beautiful things.
Yeah,
Go on.
They destroy their inhibitions to the degree that they also destroyed their grasp on reality, at least in the movie, right? And because of that, he was able to write in a way that, can make you cry or whatever the fuck, That's the bones, I feel, of the movie. The meat itself is gross and it is alien.
It's
like
black and
it's black meat and it comes from centipedes.
Black. It's oddly sexual.
Yeah, there's a lot of like weird sexual interplay throughout the film that I don't know if I fully grasp.
Well, if it's all autobiographical, I would imagine that this dude was a bisexual man, leaning more toward homosexuality throughout an epoch of time where that kind of thing just wasn't, too well looked upon. And although the movie, and we talked about this prior to, like the movie showcases the fact that in the 1950s, there was already a system for homosexuals to be able to meet each other in a safe enough way to be able to, have sex with each other or create a relationship or whatever the fuck. And, but that's still barbaric about the fact that you have to like have people make, these essentially black market networks in order to be able to meet each other in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, just to piggyback off of what you were saying, what you thought the sort of bones of the film were.
Yeah.
I sort of take it in that same angle, and I just want to add on to it a little bit for you to see if this helps you at all, Hannah. But it was sort of like, for me, thinking of Bukowski and like Hitchens and other great writers that probably, a lot of them struggle with these same kind of demons. To me, like the most congenial part of the film is where his friends come back midway when he's in Turkey or wherever he is, and they're like, "You have to finish this book. It's amazing." And they're reading parts of it, and the parts they read, the prose is very beautiful. Like it's nice to listen to. And so it seems to me that like, aside from all of the distractions of the film, like he is probably, in a very real sense, like writing this beautiful novel under the intoxication of the drugs, so that it's sort of like this meta message about how I don't know, burning the candle at both ends. This like how you can find beauty in the madness in the midst of this intoxication, or these types of intoxication. Like great rock musicians and other people like that spring to mind when I think of these like tortured geniuses or whatever you want to call them. So that's very much in mind in this, exactly with what Jose said too. But that's sort of the bones of the film to me too. I wouldn't say that's why I recommended it for the podcast. I mostly did it for the meme of the poetry of the flesh. Like, we got to keep it going. But aside from that, yeah. So what do you still you still don't seem very plussed, very nonplussed.
I understand the metaphor, and I think the details in that way work for the story. I don't think that is apparent when you watch this movie. If you don't look things up. Like, no. I think this movie is extremely confusing.
Yes. I had to look it up. I couldn't help myself. Like, the moment that it was done, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I felt bereft in space, and I didn't like it. No, I needed anchors. I was like, there is no goddamn way this comes just out of nowhere from somebody. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't. It doesn't. Like, somebody literally had to go through those drug-addicted fusions in order to be able to get to the degree that Cronenberg can then adapt a snippet of what they wrote into the movie. Because another thing that I read in, like, the little trivia things, that for the movie is the fact that, like, this isn't even close to like following what the novel actually is about, because the novel is way more graphic about shit. Like, it's got apparently like heroin junkies like allowing like bruises to fester and like become septic in order for the vein to be able to pop out again, so they could then be able to use heroin on it again.
My God.
And yeah, just other shit like that.
I thought Requiem for a Dream was bad. This is insanity.
I mean, shit, if anything, the dude that wrote Requiem for a Dream probably got it off of Naked Lunch.
Yeah, it's probably not far
Yeah,
off.
honestly.
Yeah.
So, knowing that, you know what I mean? Knowing the fact that this is actually a tame version of the written version of the situation is... Oof.
Tame or different?
Supposedly tamer, like genuinely tamer. Like they did not go into the most graphic, like they didn't pull the most graphic source material that the book could have provided. You know,
Dang.
had we lived in a purer world where art could really flourish to its maximum degree. You know, here we're left with wilted flowers, but we still look upon them favorably.
All right, that's fair. So I'm getting.
I mean,
this,
if you're
like,
gonna be fucking weird, be weird all the way. You know what I mean? It's like you already went through the effort, and it's obvious no one was trying to make money off of this. You know?
That's what's up.
Yeah, it's like there's absolutely no way midway through the movie's production they're like, yeah, you know, maybe we should think about the target audience. What about the demographic we're trying to
target audience for this? Well, we got William S. Burroughs. He's one.
He's a big name.
Cronenberg apparently.
Yeah, he'll
likes
be there
this.
too. Their families, I'm sure, will come.
Families for moral support and the
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like 20 people right there.
The target audience is my family because
It's
they
my
support
family.
me.
No, it's my family to show them the pressures that they throw upon me, led me to drug addiction. Yeah, that's
Reverse
right.
intervention.
That's right. This is a reverse roast.
Yeah. No, I need them here because they're terrible.
Yeah. The alien head typewriter won't make sense until you meet my mother.
Oh shit, I get it. Oh, she's the mugwump.
Yeah.
She's the mugwump. It all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
I mean, how fun though it must be to have the kind of clout Cronenberg has, that have men and women come in every day to work on this kind of shit for you. To be
that was Ian Holmes in there. That's Bilbo Baggins himself. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like the acting was great. I love the deadpan delivery of William Lee the entire time. That was one of the things that carried the movie for me, is the fact that he wasn't like kind of situation to everything. Like, if I actually mentioned it at the very beginning that it's actually kind of enviable to me personally to be able to have that kind of affectlessness to a situation. You know, like, why should anything surprise you like that? You know, unless it's actively trying to harm you, then you should, you know, try to back away from it. But you shouldn't just give things that kind of advantage of surprise like that if you can avoid it. Because he saw that gigantic bug and you know, it started talking to him, and he essentially didn't allow it to have like the upper hand on him in any type of way.
I think it's a hint to the viewers too. It's like he knows he's on drugs and he's experienced at this, you know, because it's like any person in their right mind, you know, the first time the huge bug is brought out in the box and it starts talking to him, he doesn't seem surprised.
That's a very fair point, because because the movie starts with him looking really fucking straight-laced. I thought we were going to watch something like a Postal situation where like some dude unhinges himself because his wife starts taking drugs, you know? But
thought so too.
slowly, not even slowly, the movie pretty quickly but subtly makes mention of the fact that, no, this dude has been a junkie for a long time. And then we're just catching him at a good 3-4 month period in his life.
We got a
6
job.
months of maybe. He's got a job. He's got one clean suit.
At least.
Yeah. He's got one clean suit and a hat that matches. So because of that, that's really good. because of that, he can essentially impersonate a normal member of society just, because of the fact that he has the uniform to be able to do so. I mean, and because of that, me personally, I was entirely led to believe that we're looking at a straight-laced Joe kind of guy going through a potentially psychotic breakdown. I thought, okay, like his wife is coming in, like, because his wife is the first one who did the drugs, but we don't know if that's really how it's been all the way through, like we can't, like that's just, because this also isn't the first time she's done the bug powder.
No, I don't think by a long shot. I think she used all of it.
Right, because at the very beginning of the movie, he's having the troubles of literally all of it being done after one job when it's supposed to be very long lasting.
And his boss is like, "That's impossible. Are you eating it?"
Yeah,
yeah. He makes the joke. What are you eating it? He's like, I don't know what's happening. I got stony brain.
Nope, that's a very fair point, because I honestly didn't think that the movie was leading in the direction of we're watching a relapsing drug addict essentially go through motions he already understands pretty well. I thought we were watching the descent of an individual who didn't, which left me more amused about his affectlessness toward the situation, because I was like, oh, like he's just taking it on to the fucking chin. No worries. Like,
yeah, like I aspire to be like this guy.
Yeah, holy shit. Hell yeah.
I wish I could walk into a room and see my spouse shooting up
some roach powder.
Some roach powder. Or
I was
be like, what is it?
Or getting unenthusiastically fucked by one of my best friends.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, don't take it. It wasn't serious.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not
no one's
taking it seriously.
I didn't take it seriously.
Yeah, honestly, you guys weren't taking it seriously.
No one here is taking it seriously.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that he was even inside of her by that point, just completely soft.
The laziest cuckolding I've ever seen in my life. You guys are ruining it.
Yeah, can't even get mad at it. Can't even feign anger.
You're not really helping the fantasy. I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting also actually how the movie peppers in the context necessary to understand past scenes, because all of his essentially apathy toward his wife, his apathy toward her infidelity, all of that stuff makes a lot more sense when shaded under the context that what we're looking at is a closeted homosexual man who just happens to have a wife in order to be able to,
It is 53, so.
Yeah, hold on to the escapades that he wants to be able to have, But at the same time, we're also looking at a man who wants to be straight-laced. He's actively trying to put on the mask and persona of a straight-laced individual with his clothes and his and everything, and trying to tell himself, "No, I'm an exterminator. This is the trade that I've attained. Like, I am not a writer."
Yeah, you're saying there's like this sort of like meta, like created to be. Like the person Bill himself is essentially like always destined to be this drug addict, but here he is trying to fight that with what little he has.
Well, a change
in the same way that he can with his wife.
Yeah, and a change in occupation too can be a way to break the cycle of old habits. Because probably writing is like, oh, I just need something to boost my creativity or something like that.
It's call
a lot of quiet time by yourself at home.
If I recall, I think he called writing dangerous.
Yeah.
But
only if people read your words.
Yeah, but people were beginning to do that. I mean, as his friends were reading him and hyping him up.
Yeah.
That's when essentially he started to deteriorate in that way. Because honestly, it really was like at the beginning of the first compliments that like he started to go deeper into the days of it.
It's kind of like we were saying before the podcast. Like if you don't die penniless in a ditch in your own vomit, were you even a writer? Really?
Yeah, you can't stand next to the greats like Edgar Allan Poe and shit like that. You know what I mean? It's like, Who the fuck are you? You die in your home or on
There's
your
somebody
family? You
you're
fucking
nobody.
hack?
Or God forbid, alive.
Yeah. Exactly. Who would have read Edgar Allan Poe if he'd lived to be 80? No one.
Yeah, didn't they tease him? They're like, you write garbage, Poe. This is nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bet you don't mean it.
Yeah, I wonder
I
how.
bet he's not even depressed. I bet he fakes it.
That's just.
And
the
then he's
bug
like, I'll
about it.
show him. And then he just starts fucking chugging.
I'll snort the black powder. You
Yeah.
don't think I will? I'll do it.
Yeah, how casual everybody was about trying completely foreign substances that you don't know if anybody's tried before was amazing in this movie.
You know, I always attribute that to how fucking boring the past must have been.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
always what I attribute it to. You know, it's like, what else are you going to do? You know what I mean? If you're not a reader, if you're not an individual who likes to read, and back then they had,
Or maybe can't.
or can't, and back then they didn't even have dyslexia all figured out yet. So it's like you might even, you know, you might be able to read, but it might hurt as you do it.
Mhm.
You know, so it's like,
Plus, working conditions are terrible and dangerous.
yep,
Yeah.
and you're snorting lead all day because you live in a house that's painted and made with it.
Oh, yeah, it's in your car.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's driving around with it.
So I mean, you're fucking pounding a light headache all day, and I mean, why wouldn't you fucking do whatever? I have a lot of sympathy for people in the past when it comes to that kind of situation, and like just the recreational avenues that one had available to them.
Hmm.
Because it's like, you know, even if you're genuinely poor nowadays, you only have to buy your TV once. You only have to buy a Roku once. You only have to have $10 every month to be able to then have one streaming service,
Mhm.
you know? And if you're genuinely poor, that will be what you have. Obviously, I'm still talking about an individual who has housing to be able to house these things. But still, not homeless, just poor, you know,
Mhm.
just a poor person inside of their one little teeny tiny apartment, you know, still has a TV, a Roku, and one streaming service to be able to fucking watch unlimited amount of things. You know, it might not be the most popular thing, but they can still do it. An individual in the same exact situation, just sans the technology, 50 years in the past, has fucking nothing.
Fuck all, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
what the
even-
fuck do you have except a little mirror and your scissors that you use to cut your hair to give yourself a fucking sweet mustache, because that's all you have to, you know, to do with your time.
Those aren't allowed in this house. Even what? What were you going to say?
Yeah, sorry, I was in a rant. I just picturing people in the past.
No, I was just gonna say, even cheaper still. Almost everybody has accessibility to like a phone, smartphone. Now
That's what
phones, you
It's
can
almost
watch
fucking mandatory
YouTube
to have
for
a phone
free.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you have to have one to get a job.
Yeah, honestly.
And I think like the most, like I'm thinking myself 50 years ago.
Yeah, you vampire. Giving away the plot right now. Yes, as I consider myself 50
My
years
clover's blown. I got to get the fuck.
just fucking puffing up the smoke.
50. I mean 5.
I mean, 5 years ago, when I
Five
think of
years
myself,
ago.
5
5
years
days ago.
No, I just imagine because I have a general. I'll just say, I don't know how to really nail this down, but general laziness in my personality, and I imagine 100 years ago myself living in the same place without access to the internet, which I think is the key thing here.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna learn shit. I'm not gonna be incentivized to learn shit, and I'll probably try whatever. Yeah, you got some black meat, I'll shoot that shit up. But yeah, now today, like you were saying, all you need is $10 a month, maybe. But as long as you have access to the internet and some,
You can get so much free stuff. Yeah.
right, and it's like it's all of the information in the world is at your fingertips when you have the internet, and it probably will help you to not want to find meaning in the bottom of a bottle or a syringe or whatever it is.
Right. I also
probably helps a
wonder
lot.
if, you know, this genuinely feels like a epoch thing in terms of like societal epoch. How it kind of seems like this movie contextualizes homosexuality as another vice, like doing drugs.
Yeah.
You know, wherein like you take intake of the dark meat or whatever,
Ooh.
and like
I see.
The other dark meat.
yeah. And you keep craving it.
OG.
You keep craving it as opposed to conceptualizing it as just of your nature,
Mhm.
And I mean, the way that even the story that he told, about how him being like, yeah, the first time I figured out that I was gay, I was like so repulsed because again, within the generational context of his time, the only other parallels to homosexuality were the soft queens that he was talking about, and
He
like
called
how
them subhuman when he was
Mhm.
recollecting it, which that's a strong mindset. To
yeah,
have.
exactly. Especially because he's coining himself with the subhuman in that way, and if not trying to do so, he has to recoil in that way. He can't just live and let live because he wants to be that way, but again, his dissonance, his of like wanting to be straight laced, but obviously nothing about his more essence like character actually leans in that direction. Pretty much puts him at odds with himself. It's like a genuinely internal battle where this is a fucking beatnik motherfucker for real. Like this guy is just. He should just be a heroin junkie who the government should provide him with a typewriter every time he breaks one because he's writing gold, all right? Like he is writing National Treasure gold, and this is unfortunately how, the modern Diogenes exists,
Boom.
Yeah, back in Rome, they kept him with his pot. Here, we'll keep him on the sauce and on the, with the typewriter. But unfortunately, the society as it is does not want to showcase those avenues as viable of an existence. They just, no. You can't be both things. You can't be both a decorated and celebrated individual in society and be both a junkie like this.
Not anymore.
So because of that, he has to become a covert agent. He has to put on the mask. He has to go on. Oh, homosexuality is the perfect cover for agents, trying to infiltrate the field. Infiltrating the field being literal society in that way.
This is unrelated, but is the fact that there were two Jones played by the same actress maybe a nod to like his state of mind at the time, like just one to replace the other, or they seemed like the same thing to him?
You mean in the movie or the author?
Because the author did shoot a second wife.
Yeah, I just mean in the movie, the fact that two same name played by the same actress, obviously it's the same person, so they look pretty much identical. I'm wondering if that's a nod towards something that was going on at that time, or like a metaphor for how he saw that in his life.
I will say that I believe that the shooting of the first Joan was literal within the universe. The second Joan wasn't real. She was a recollection that he went and saved, kept for himself. And when they asked him, you have to prove that you're a writer, he wrote that scene for them, read it to them with the same kind of like feeling that he had as he was providing it. And that's when they're like, welcome to Annexia. Oh, that was a really good fucking line. Holy shit. Get in there, buddy.
Yeah.
God
Go write some
damn.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Give me the first name of your novella, senor. That was good.
Dedicate that shit to me. Please.
Yeah, exactly. Remember the officers who allowed you into Annexia.
Yeah, I wonder too.
And what does Annexia mean? Because what does it mean to annex? It means to take a part of something. So in this situation, since the movie's literally it's all in Fableland. I mean, all in what do I like to call it? God damn it! Well, it's where the platform exists. Parable Land. There you
Parable
go.
Land. Oh, we came back to two places in this podcast:
Yeah.
Parable Land and the poetry.
Yeah, we live in Parable Land where we have another writer about the poetry of the flesh.
Yeah, I almost think this movie is easier to watch as a parable, or like if you just try
Oh,
to watch
100%.
every scene as the meta version of whatever that message is?
Yeah, but what I was saying, what does annexia mean? What is he annexing? I would imagine that he's probably annexing both sections, both viable sections of the real world, I would say, and the interzone, which is, the place where he goes to debauch himself, in his own way.
Drink the mugwump jism.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, well, now I have a viable source of mugwumpjism from the interzone, and I no longer have to go through all of these seedy ways of going about it. But I don't want to live there anymore. That place isn't good for me. I won't be able to actually, go forth anywhere there.
The interzone isn't like a real place, though, right?
No,
Like,
I don't
that's-
believe so. No.
Because I thought it was interesting how his friends just like came to check on him and
Yep.
see if they could, like get him out of there. That makes me feel like it's a metaphor for just where he's at in his life, just
Yep.
being kind of lost in the.
I think
in the
it's
drug
also
use.
not only is it fantasy, like you're saying, I think it's also like a showcasing of his racism, because he goes off to a complete, like a foreign place to bring his white man problems, and like everything about it to him is, a step below to what he was dealing with before. But, it's in a better rhythm to him because he wasn't able to keep up with the bustle of, the NYC life in that way. So because of that, he has to step himself down one and try to figure it out here before he can go back to that situation, which, fuck him for thinking that guy. But
So what's the difference metaphorically between the Americans, quote unquote, and the people of that land?
well, it seems like the people of that land seem far more open to what they do. They sell the black meat openly in the bazaar.
Yep.
They don't worry about it. The
Openly
young
gay.
the young interzone boys, as they call them, are open about it. No one gives them hassle about it. We never saw any sort of homophobia or
No.
or homosexual rejection in the interzone. Everybody in the interzone seems to mind their own fucking business all the time.
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
I might like to go there. I'll try the black meat,
As he said, is when he was talking to his friends about him joining the interzone, he's like, everything's cheap here, and you can find anything you need. But I'm wondering if the interzone is really just some homeless encampment under some bridge somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Brooklyn, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
you wouldn't
where
find
he go-
judgment there, I'm sure.
Exactly. That's exactly what I mean. Yeah. But at the same time, because of his fucking 1950s racism, you know what I mean? He morphs it as though he's gone off to some different land to be able to reach this exotic place of permissibility where
though,
his, white bread US of A would not allow such, sodomy and debauchery or whatever the fuck.
The opening quote, nothing is true, everything is permitted.
Mm-hmm. And the one that the actual writer wrote about the fact that you can, a player can try to con the whole world, but you can't con the mark inside. Because you'll always know that you're trying to play yourself in that way. And William Lee understood the fact that being a straightless person is just not the fucking person he is.
Yeah.
He can remove all emotion from his face, which he was able to properly do, but his actions still are the actions of the man he is.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because he really pushed for, he seemed to be really pushing, the straight-laced thing at the beginning. And I was initially surprised at how quickly he succumbed to just, doing a random mystery drug. And then he didn't stop. He was doing it himself, and then he found another one and he was doing that. And it's I don't know. I thought that was interesting because it does show, an acceptance of just, this is who I am and this is what I do.
Yep. I mean, and I also think that fuck, this is a really good movie. Now it's really digging
Oh,
deep.
shut up.
It's really digging deep now in terms of how I'm thinking about it, because I'm thinking now the reason why they started with bug powder is because there really is no lower place to go from there. If you start off with a genuine drug that people understand, you know what I mean, as okay, people have experimented with this drug and they can live a whole life by doing it. It isn't as punchy in terms of how debased it is than having somebody fucking shoot bug poison into their veins and just being like, I knew it wouldn't kill me. I've done so many fucking drugs and I put so many things in my veins that at this point I know the threshold of my body, and this ain't shit. You know,
That's not gonna do it.
mm-hmm.
Barely kills the roaches.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like it makes them dance. Yeah,
They get happy for a while.
mm-hmm. So I think that's, thinking retrospectively about it now, that's really, really good. And it's a much better cover than, because I don't think the movie ever mentions one genuine drug at all throughout the whole thing. Like everyone's
Except,
smoking
like,
cigarettes,
drinking.
but I mean, cigarettes aren't even drugs within the conceptions of, that time.
Especially the 50s.
No, exactly.
It was
Like,
brushing your teeth or something.
Mhm.
Well, you haven't had a cigarette?
yeah. You don't brush your teeth? Well, here's a cigarette.
Yeah, I'll give you a cigarette. It'll be
Exactly.
fine.
Mhm.
I'm just I I really when I first watched this, it was one of those that I was like 3 a.m. by myself in my bedroom. I was like, oh, I'll check this movie out. Just completely forgot about it until I saw it again here and thinking, it's a Cronenberg film, so it fits perfectly well. But just thinking about like I really think that this movie does have a lot of substance under the nonsense. Like I still feel very strongly about like the sort of tortured artist story and the idea of like being a writer or somebody like that is a life of sacrifice, and you have to give so much of yourself to produce whatever it is. And these themes just, I guess I'm a sucker for them is what it is. But
I really like that little line in the movie where he's talking about the fact that everyone suffers, and so do writers. The only difference is that writers write a report on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard you chuckle during that
Yeah.
part. Yes, I got a little. So as far as like the one thing that always trips me up about the movie is thinking about the end with the mugwump farm,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I want to say. And I guess I'm just not really concrete in my mind on what this sort of represents with all these people here sucking on the mugwumps.
I think it's like potentially like because I was thinking about this a little bit because I was thinking about like the Dr. Benway or whatever,
Mhm.
And I think that's basically like a lab for providing drugs, and the people who are working in there are also doing the drugs, and that's why he was like, I could use someone of your gumption, basically, or of your caliber.
You think they're all like in like the sort of bigger picture, like struggling artists there to get the juice to call forth the muse, or
Either that or just addicts
Mm.
and people who make drugs for money.
Yeah, I'm just trying to like conceptualize it in like the sort of bigger picture idea. of it.
Relative to the clues that the movie gave us, right? The mugwump secretes when it secretes two types of scents and things when it likes what you write.
Mhm.
And it makes you want to write more. I would imagine.
That seems more parallel with like dopamine to me.
There is something about it. This is another reason I thought you might like this movie, about like sitting down at an empty page and coming away 2 hours later, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of stuff on the page, and you sort of look back and sense of like awe and surprise and relief and I don't know, excitement that it even happened,
Yeah, I honestly wish I could black out and write like that.
Yeah.
It is, although I understand, the movie really showcases the levels, the dark levels you have to get to be so apt at doing drugs that you can actually still do a constructive thing while doing them.
Well,
You know
have
what I
you
mean?
tried?
Like that
rose
takes
powder?
fucking decades. I'm sure that takes fucking decades and like years of doing nothing with your life.
Yeah.
And then, but being like, I do not want to quit the drug, but God damn it, I gotta do something here. You know,
I got something to say.
yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
gonna say it.
And then being able to hit a genuine fugue, you know what I mean, flow state, because there is so much inhibition when you write on your own. It is, you know, both grammatically and in terms of structure and how much you want to ramble.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievably inhibiting. And
I mean, all after content too. Like the first major hurdle, even figuring out what to write about.
right, yep.
Yeah, that's why I really like the opening conversation of the movie where they're talking about how rewriting is like killing the soul of
I
your
totally
thoughts.
forgot about that little
that intro convo.
that intro convo. Yeah.
It's like a cool setup for, I guess, now I'm trying to think of the parallels that conversation might have throughout the movie, but
I wonder if Naked Lunch, as the novel that this was lightly interpreted as, was a rough draft like that.
Yeah.
I mean, how can a heroin junkie do a second draft on a book he doesn't even remember writing?
right?
You know,
That's a
like
very good point.
Yeah, like
It's a very good point.
how can you possibly rewrite that? Like,
Mhm.
and you know, as you know, the most amateur writers that we might be, are we just wasting our fucking time trying to rewrite fucking anything? You know what I mean? Is it just about writing and writing until you strike fucking gold? You know, because I mean,
That's how it happened for Sanderson, Poe.
Right,
I
'cause
mean,
I
I
mean,
shouldn't put
'cause it's-
Sanderson next to Poe or anything. But
because I mean,
maybe,
it could, for all intents and purposes, be lines upon lines of vapidity. You know what I mean? Until there's one fucking line that's like, God damn, where the fuck was this guy when he wrote that? You know, like.
there was a part of me that wanted to start this podcast just doing that. I forget his friend's name, Martin, not the other one who was banging his wife or trying to, but it was just reading
Failing
off
horribly.
like in a monotone voice.
Mhm.
These $10 words aloud. Yeah, there's something, I don't know. I guess I don't have much else. So what do you guys? So I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, see, that's the thing, right? Though, like, to be a heroin addict, you have to be indulgent, right? You have to have the kind of self-indulgency to allow yourself to put yourself in that position. And that kind of thing can translate to artistic endeavors in the same way if you also have the capacity for them. You know, like if you allow yourself to be indulgent, people by proxy and and vicariously want that indulgency too, but they just don't know how to reach it, on top of also just having the natural inhibitors that disallow them from reaching those points.
It's no surprise that most of the members of the 27 Club were drug users, like heavily.
Well, that's how they all died, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
I think so. Well, Cobain killed himself. There's probably more examples like that. But he might not have done that had he not been on the sauce.
no. He was on heroin because he had a horrible stomach problem.
Right. Yeah, that's
So,
right.
He was in a bad place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he made some pretty good tunes. They're
Oh, he
still
did.
on the radio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, as an artist, to them, out in the ether as they are, is that a sign? Is that the appropriate sign that they want to showcase that they made anything? The fact that the thing that they vilified when they were on alive is now the thing that venerates them as actually having existed.
Yeah, Cobain, just because we're on that, famously expressed resentment at Smells Like Teen Spirit, and he hated playing it because he thought it was such a cop-out to the music industry. And then he's forced to play it over and over. How fucking ironic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I want to...
You're not going to ask us our star rating?
Well, I was going to go into closing thoughts,
Oh.
and then if you had any, Hannah.
Yeah, I do. Can I tie them into my star rating?
Yeah, you tie it right in, and then we'll go to Jose.
Okay, so there's as a blanket thing, there's one thing that I like about this movie in particular, and that's that you experience it it's experiencing an autobiography as the main character. Like, you made me experience it the way that you experienced it.
Mhm.
And that's why as much as this movie is, it's hard to talk about this movie. It's hard to keep track of what happened in what order, because you don't understand the motivations of what the main character is doing or what's leading him from one step to another, other than just like a dialogue from an imaginary thing. And that makes this movie very confusing and disorienting. But I do have an appreciation for making me experience it the way that you did, and making me feel that lost, confused, like icky feeling that you gave me, because I think that's very well done. However, I also think, and maybe this feeds into my first point, but I also think that this movie robbed me of the ability to be entertained by it, because if you set the bar at insanity, I'm no longer surprised or interested in anything that happens, no matter how crazy it is. And as much as this movie was a fucking ride, I found it boring. And I didn't full transparency, I didn't enjoy watching this movie. I didn't. And I don't know.
You finally got one.
Yeah, for the first, I mean, it's helpful that I get to pick most of them, but for the first point, something that I think is really well done, but is by itself, in my opinion, one quality, a large one, but one quality, I don't think I can give it higher than like a 2.5.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Solid. You know what? I'll go before you, since I'll outro us. As far as closing thoughts, I think I talked about everything I wanted to, but rating this movie, I'm gonna go somewhere around a 3.5. I really like the meta conversation of all the absurd things that happen in the movie and all the things that we can safely assume that they translate to, knowing William S. Burroughs and his past and drawing some pretty reliable inferences, I think. But as far as the movie being entertaining, I don't know. It's something to watch. It's fucking weird. It's Cronenberg. I like that shit. And in the spirit of the podcast, I had to sneak it in here when nobody was really paying attention. So that's one more for Poetry of the Flesh. 3.5 stars for me. Jose, you kind of said that you were changing your tune a little bit as we talked about. I'm curious what your closing is here.
Oh yeah, no, I like this movie a lot more now that it's even just replayed itself lightly inside of my head as I've been sitting here thinking about it, reading a little wiki and knowing the fact this is a semi-biographical, autobiographical thing really fucking helped.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing the fact that this isn't just being pulled out of space really helps humanize it in that way, because otherwise it would be far too alien for me to appreciate in any type of way. But understanding the fact that what we're watching is a visual depiction of a heroin junkie's ascent, descent, plateau, descent in terms of his desire for societal normalcy or his integration to societal normalcy is very, very striking. I really, really liked it. Cronenberg is Cronenberg. I mean, the style is right up that same thing to the degree that it isn't even surprising. So I kind of have to give it a little bit of negative marks upon that, because to be perfectly honest, yes, it's Cronenberg's style and there's no denying that, but there's nothing that was like wowing about it. There's nothing that was like what Hannah said in relation to the fact that the most striking, the most visually thing about the movie was pretty much the butthole beetle, and that happened within the first 15 minutes, and then nothing really ever aside from that was as bad. Even like the actual mugwump guy, I thought that, I mean, maybe that's just because I've been watching sci-fi for 30 years now and I've seen crazier looking aliens
Men
than
in
that
Black.
one. Yeah, I've seen crazier looking aliens than that at this point, maybe if I had the eyes of an individual who was watching this movie in 1992, I would, I'd be more shocked at the mugwump.
Hopefully back in 92 they still had some
some
puritanical
that thing had some pepper to
sensibilities.
it. Yeah, it had a little more pepper to it. But
Yeah.
as far as it stands, the movie kind of shows its hand a little too early in that way. But the existential angst of the character was very, very fun to watch. This movie reminds me so much of Synecdoche, New York, to me in
I
that
was
way.
thinking you might say that.
Yeah, I thought so too.
In just the absolute self-torture that the protagonist puts himself through because he wants to fit into this type of mold, and he will not accept any other. He won't accept anything else. You know, even when he's in the interzone, he's still wearing his drab one suit the entire time. He's not, you know, even though he wants to be there, he doesn't imbibe with the locality. You know, he still sticks out like a sore thumb. And yeah, all of that, you know, symbolism is very, very fun, very, very useful, I feel, because it adds a tonality of comedy to what is a genuinely existential problem, especially when you want to be creative. You know, because being a writer, I think, is a little bit different from having artistically, like painting and stuff like that, creativity, you know, where you can draw whatever, you know what I mean, and like it can eventually take shape in some type of way. Like writing needs to be headed in some type of direction, or because you can't words one after the other will not make
A Starry Night.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
won't make a Starry Night in that way. Like, yeah, because I mean, even nowadays, I mean, like I could paint, you know, not that I could. I'm just in the royal eye, like, you know, like a scenery of space could be painted, and then like a church floating in the middle of it could be placed, you know what I mean, there, and like painted very beautifully. And even though contextually it makes no fucking sense for both of them to be there, visually it's striking. You know, in order for me to be able to get to that same place as a writer, the amount of extra, I don't know, space, context, and, you know, color necessary to actually make that useful, so much more.
The number of $10 words you got to break out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I mean, Starry Night is it's from the Impressionism era, and the idea is your interpretation of the things you see, and that's the same thing with writing, except everything has to be Impressionism. You can't just write things down as you see them.
Yeah.
You don't get that option.
Because that's a report.
And then there was a sidewalk, and on the sidewalk was a dog.
Yeah. Very pretty dog. Can you see the dog?
Buy my book.
Yeah, please. I'm hungry. So, you know, having thrown my hat into the ring of trying to write once, you know, I have so much sympathy and respect for anybody who actually wants to have that be their main source of income and also their main source of validation. Holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? You are talking about digging yourself into an abyss, essentially.
I'd try bug powder. if I was a writer.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, what else can spark it in you at that point, you know? Yeah, no, good stuff. In terms of my rating, because of that, 4 out of 5.
Nice.
I do want to give a quick call out to how far Jose has come in the moments since the movie ended to right now. Because right after this movie ended, Jose said, and I quote, "I think you wasted our time, Matt."
You did. I had to percolate inside of me. It really, really did. And it's mostly because the last scene is so quick. It didn't allow me a moment to process what was actually happening. And I don't even know if my interpretation is, you know, I mean, is appropriate, you know what I mean? Like, but I like my interpretation of the fact that there is no other Joan. This is just a refined version of the genuine events that happened at the end of the movie, and refined so well that two complete strangers who have official authority over you can can hear what you just wrote and be like, "Oh my fucking God, yes, join our country."
Yeah. You're a writer. You're a
You
writer.
will be an asset, sir. Yeah.
Get in here and make us
we
money.
need our teenagers to cry like this, all right?
Oh.
I just think that's a way more fun ending, and it obviously didn't strike me that way the moment that the movie ended, But that's one of the reasons I gave it a default extra star, just because of the surprise. Maybe as it wanes, it might be 3.75. That's more closer to an official situation. But right now, on the record, 4 out of 5.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me a little sad for our other 4 out of 5ers from the podcast.
I'm going to posthumously raise my 3.5 to a 4 to equal Jose. Huzzah!
I'm not moving.
Yeah, so
we kind of have to hire an intern at this point. We have too many movies that I kind of want to have like a little spreadsheet as to like what the numbers have been for each one.
It would be really cool if we could level out to a number that's like shared between us, an average, and then we could have like an intern that's like, and this is the same rating as these movies.
Yeah, any cinematography majors at the U of M that want to get an extra credit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hit us up.
Mm-hmm.
We're
we're locally funded. All of the money is Minnesota money, so
we keep it in the state.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was right. Thank you for watching this with me. I know neither one of you wanted to when it started.
I didn't. I had no opinion about this movie whatsoever.
I was excited when it started because I like weird movies.
Mm-hmm. Just not this kind of. This is a little bland weird, maybe.
No, to me, I think it was just the execution, and I think it was intentional, but I don't.
Not a fan. Well, you're a 2.5 fan.
Yeah, that's almost half.
That's not bad.
I think that's a very fair rating, honestly. The only if I wasn't an individual who had wrote before, 2.5 might be where I'm at too.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of the sympathy behind it that my personal, rating goes a little higher, because again, I can understand what it would be like to try to attach validation to writing and how fucking abysmal that would be to your own self-care and self-esteem. Especially when you're good at it. Holy fucking shit.
Abysmal and abysmal both work.
I've never sat down and tried to write a book, so I can't relate from that perspective. But I did at one point in my life try to make a career out of art and like painting and stuff like that. And I very quickly gave up on that. But
yeah, did you unhinge yourself, to the degree that you allowed every type of debauchery to flow through you to see if one thing stuck?
Actually, she's told me stories about like, in this, maybe not in the same vein, but like staying up until 5, 6.
How many women have you slept with to really get to the... How much black meat have you eaten?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've stayed up 3 nights in a row to finish a painting before.
That sounds like a tortured artist to me.
But no, I wasn't excessively drinking or doing like drugs or anything.
Good.
But it is, I do understand the difficulty between like, because just like any business, it's not this dreamland where it gets to be your passion project all the time. It has to be accepted by people in order to be successful and to be profitable and to give you anything to go on. So you don't just get to do you if you, roll yourself into the creative fields for a career. And I quit because I felt like I lost what I loved to do in it. It became like a job and I didn't feel like I knew what I wanted to do with it anymore. And that's very discouraging.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you said it. and I think we're all feeling it. So if you made it this far, at least one feller in here, SKFZ Gaming, thanks for dropping in.
Yeah, dude, thank you.
Give the movie a watch. Since you hadn't seen it yet, you probably should.
Don't.
No, I suggest you should.
Yeah, there's an average of 3.5-ish stars.
About a 3.
Yeah, somewhere around a 3.
Yeah.
So it's
like
worth
I
a watch.
said, if I let it simmer, if I let myself simmer down, it's probably a 3.75. It's
Well,
not
we're
below.
not gonna let
It's
Jose
not
do
below a
that.
3.5. You know what I mean? But right now, at the moment, you've caught me in the interzone, and we're at 4.5. We're debauching ourselves right now.
And that's where we're going to keep him. He's locked up in the underzone, and he's not getting out. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you next time. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Lay off the mugwump jism. Or take more.